What is up, Babylonians? Dan was here, and today we're going to be playing Kerbal Space Program 2, and we're going to be looking at launching our first unmanned vehicle into orbit. So we're not going to risk any lives of any of the Kerbins today, and this is the ship that we're going to be using to actually launch into space, create a space station, or the start of. So we have the docking ports at the top here, 2 of them. We then go into the second stage of the rocket there, and the first stage here. So we'll rebuild this with you now, show you what parts are used, and then also the staging process as well. And then we'll go into the launch and show you how to get into your first orbit. So let's start afresh. So let's delete the current build here. We should still have that saved, so if we check our open, we have it there as the unmanned ship, so that's fine. So we'll close that down. So first things first, we're going to make it as a probe, like I say, unmanned. So we'll go with the Stay Putnik. That's going to have the internal reaction wheel as well, so that saves us having to put any stabilization on the ship as well. From there, we're going to want to sort of kind of make it a bit more, I guess, meaty. So we're going to go for a payload. We're going to go for a small crew cabin, just something that makes it look a little bit nicer, and it gives you room to work with as well. So with that, we can add the docking stations on the docking port, should I say, on there as well. So nothing too large for this one. We're going to go with 2 of these, one either side, and they're going to snap to the exact same size. Sort of just move them down a little bit, get them a bit more central, so it doesn't look too bad there for us. And then whilst we're here as well, we might as well go for the utility and go for some of the thruster, the RCS thruster blocks, of which we'll use 4 of those, and we'll put them just to the side of the docks as well, keep them central. I always like to go for sort of central mass with these sort of things, just so it's more easily controllable. From there, so this is going to be what's going to be orbiting around. So we could go for another dock down the bottom. That would obviously block off the crew door there, so we don't want to do that, because we may eventually have crew on board. So what we will do next is we're going to go for a stack separator. We're going to have that there because once we've got it into orbit, we can just separate that and no longer need any kind of thrust on there other than possibly the RCS thrust. Actually, saying that, first of all, we need to fuel the RCS, don't we? So we'll go for a small monopropellant in there. So that provides us with 0.6 tons, which should be plenty of monopropellant for this. Then we add the separator on there, and that's the top section pretty much completed. So fuel tanks then, so this will be what we're going to use when we're actually in space. We don't need anything particularly large, but we do need enough to provide the thrust to get our stable orbit. So for that, we are going to go for a medium fuel tank here, which is then going to be paired with some small radial thrusters. So we're going to have 4 of those. Again, try and line them up just to make them look neat. So 1 on each of the sides. If you can say that a cylinder has sides, I guess. Then from there, we're going to want to have another either decoupler or stack separator. So we're going to go with a medium stack separator here. And then back to the fuel tanks. This time we'll go for, it's still one of the mediums, but we're going to go for the larger medium just to get more fuel in there. So it's got 32 tons compared to the 16. And the smaller one, and that is because we're going to use a larger engine, so we don't want to go overboard. If we go for something like this, that's just going to look ridiculous. Same with that. So we're going to go for one of the medium thrusters with let's go with this one here, 1600 kilonewtons of force, I'm guessing that is. So that's going to be 1600 in a vacuum, but only 1381 in one atmosphere. So obviously that gets less and less as we go up. From there, we're going to want to then have some more decouplers. We're going to go with the radial decouplers. Stick 4 of those on there because we're then going to have some of the solid fuel boosters. We're going to go for the Thumper, which has 6.15 tons of solid fuel. That's plenty large enough to get us into a stable position to then get into an orbit. So we'll make sure they're connected. What I like to do as well is just to make sure that they are nice and secure is add some struts on there as well, just so they're not wobbling about and causing any sort of issues when we're trying to go straight up. We don't want it to throw us off our course. With that then, we need to look at the aerodynamics as well. So we're going to go for a small nose cone here. So find something that I guess looks pretty as well. So with these, rotate them round so they're facing inwards, and that should provide some additional aerodynamics for us. Should help us get into Kerbal space. For the wings, you don't want to go anything too ridiculous. We're going to go for the control surface. We're going to go for medium here. So just stick those in between the solid fuel boosters, because as they are released, they'll go straight down and should avoid hitting those anyway, so that's fine. If you are worried about that, you can also add in the solid fuel booster, the Sepatron 1. So you can make sure that they either launch, depending on how you orientate it, so it's going to launch upwards, so you can turn it around so that will launch it down, or if you wanted to, you could also put it onto the sides and launch it away from the ship as well. But again, that can cause a little bit of issues, but we'll add those in to show you how it works. It's always nice to get as many parts on there as you can as well to make it almost the authentic experience. So that's pretty much all that we need for this ship to actually get us into a stable orbit. For the launch though, we're going to add some clamps as well. So we're going to add 1 to each of the solid fuel boosters. A little bit overkill possibly, but at the same time, you know, safety first. And if we have a look just to make sure we have everything on here now, so we've got the essentials, so we've got the actual control pod, we've got the base of the satellite, we've got the 2 docks, we've got a fuel tank here with the engines, got the stack decouplers here and here, then we've got the solid fuel boosters, fuel, and the engine there. So I think we are good to go with that one then. So if we just check now on the right hand side here, we have the stages. So first stage at the minute is going to just decouple the clamps, which will allow the rocket just to drop straight down. So what we're going to want to do is have the solid fuel boosters launch at the same time, and we're going to have the liquid thruster launch at the same time as well. So these 4 here, those are going to be when it decouples, so we can put those in with that as well. So remove these 2 stages. So we've got liquid, solid, and the launch clamps as well. The next stage is to fire those away and release them as well. From there, we'll then decouple, and then we'll launch the 4 thrusters on the side there. And then finally, decouple the space station from the fuel. And we should be good to go. So let's jump into the launch now. Actually, let's rename this. So this would be... call this the Orbiter. Orbiter Space Station Part 1. So let's head to the launch pad and see how it fares. So here we are now on the launch pad. So what I like to do here is just double check the launch sequence once more. So liquid fuel, solid fuel, clamps, and then we're going to sort of use the separatrons there and the decouplers to move the solid fuel away from the rocket once it's spent. Decoupler, liquid, and then separator again or decoupler again. So that looks perfect to me. So we're going to launch straight up initially, and then we'll move to a prograde. So let's start the countdown. Or just launch straight away. Actually, sometimes it does a countdown, sometimes it does a launch. We have just reverted the launch back off camera, so that is why it's gone straight to launch rather than doing the countdown, which is good. Actually, it doesn't force it every time, but then some people might actually want to watch that as often as they want, or as they can. So we're going to go straight up here, making sure that we keep a nice stable line for now. Once the solid fuel has run out, we are then going to release that and switch shortly over to the prograde, and then we'll set a maneuver not long after that as well to get us into a stable orbit. So solid fuel has run out, so we're going to release that from the rocket, and as you can see they are splitting away, so hopefully that shouldn't land on the launch pad, but we'll see. So I'm going to switch over now to the prograde because we are just entering Kerbal space, and we can also now release that and launch the second stage. Give that a short while. So we're at 50,000 meters now, so what I'm going to do here, cut out all engines, going into the map, and we're going to look for the AP here, and we're going to set a maneuver plan which is going to create a hopefully stable orbit by dragging the green until the yellow circle goes all around the planet. So we can go back to the ship now. We're going to want to set the SES control over to maneuver. We've turned the RCS on as well, so that will position us to where we need to be. And then once we've got the positioning, I'm happy to then sort of skip forward 4 minutes or so. Obviously you don't want to go over because then you'll miss your burn time, which will then alter that orbit slightly, so you might be further out or closer in depending on where you miss it. So we'll skip forward time just a little bit here, making sure we don't skip over. So less than a minute now. Just slow that down a little bit. Just slow that down to 1 times, and we're going to press Z on the keyboard, which will put us into a full throttle boost. And as you can see, we need to just over 50 seconds. So we'll keep watching that countdown as well. With that, you can skip forward as well. Not highly recommended, but at the same time, we don't want to watch the whole thing all of the time. Just making sure you keep an eye on that burn time. Once it gets down to about 10 seconds, I like to just pop it back down to 1 times speed, and then you'll get a little countdown showing when to stop the burn. Well, it looks like we're in a stable orbit now anyway, but we'll stop the burn as it says. And if we check on the map now, you can see if we cancel that maneuver, we have got a solid, stable orbit around Kerbin. Now, next we'll look to see if we can get another rocket up there to join that, and we'll dock those. So with this, I'm keeping this connected for now. We can disconnect that shortly. But in case we need to do any extra maneuvers, we still have 2.88 tons of oxidizer, 0.72 of the liquid fuel, so that's plenty in case we need to maneuver. And we'll also turn off the RCS for now. We don't need any kind of stabilization until we do get a second ship getting close to it. Thanks for watching. If there's anything that you do want to see on Kerbal Space Program 2, let us know in the comments, and we'll look to sort of create a tutorial on that too. Thank you, and as always, enjoy.